Criminal attorney Mari Henderson says they could face prison time.
Felicity Huffman spent $15,000. Lori Loughlin and her husband spent $500,000. So that amount of loss alone for Lori Loughlin could expose her to more prison time. So obviously neither of these women have any criminal history, and that works to their benefit here. They may be a good candidate for probation. But there is a very real possibility they could face some months in prison, especially because the government or the sentencing judge would want to make an example out of them. You know, these are high-profile parents, these are celebrities, and they want to send the message that you can't use money alone to get your children into school. Because she is pleading guilty before a trial, she is facing less than a year in prison. But ultimately, the judge could find her to be a good candidate for probation, meaning she gets off without any prison time at all. Hey, if you don't accept this plea deal early on, we could add more charges and you could be facing more time. And in the case of Lori Loughlin, we could get your daughters involved as defendants. We could charge them. And, you know, Olivia Jade's brand is already completely up in flames. And imagine sending an 18-year-old potentially to prison for the actions of her mother. When there's no forensic evidence, there are no eyewitnesses, the jailhouse informant becomes the case. And without him, there's no case. She's going to have to prove exactly what damage this did to her reputation and to her business, but it could be in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, just because her brand is so big.
The difficulty is proving that first element, that the plaintiff and his spouse, his or her spouse, actually did have a happy marriage when this affair happened.
Attorney and legal analyst Mari Henderson to talk about just how easy it is to get scammed and how to protect yourself. Hi, Mari. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. You want to have a contract in place that very specifically lays out your obligations, how much you're going to pay and when, and their obligations, what work they're going to do, how much it'll cost, what the labor costs are, and during the process you want to keep any records. In California, it is against the law to prescribe a controlled substance using a fake name or an alias. But in Hollywood, there is the argument that a celebrity's privacy is more important.
It's not a crime to lie. It is a crime to fake a medical record, to fake a medical bill.
Legal analyst Mari Fagel says things could possibly get even worse for Brooks.
Because of what Brooks gave to E! News, he very well could be facing a forgery charge.
The rest of his family had money, they had wealth, they had power, so Nicolas Cage wanted that and more. Every attorney general has a consumer protection division. Okay. Go online, see if they have any complaints against those contractors. The Better Business Bureau would also have a log of the complaints. I actually don't think it was that great of an idea for Henry Hayes' own defense attorney to get up there and elicit the testimony that she has a tattoo of him on her body, because then that just goes to show her motive and her bias, that she's biased towards his client, so she's going to be willing to lie and say that someone else did it rather than him because they were in a dating relationship. You can sue for economic and non-economic damages. So economic damages are lost wages or medical bills, and non-economic damages are the pain and suffering, you know, the humiliation, the embarrassment, the fact that she had nightmares, and that's common, model or not.
The 2.5-hour interview that police conducted with Conrad Murray just 48 hours after Michael Jackson's death really highlighted all of the inconsistencies in his story.
If he was drunk, then he very well could have been charged with involuntary manslaughter, because as long as someone is killed while you're committing a felony or a misdemeanor, a DUI in this case, then he could have been charged with involuntary manslaughter. But of course, it's Ted Kennedy, and he wasn't. What happens is when a company files bankruptcy, it essentially suspends all of the lawsuits against that company. And the only way that the plaintiffs who have already filed suit could get around this is if they could prove that the bankruptcy was filed in bad faith. There's such thing called double jeopardy, which means that you cannot be tried twice for the same crime. So O.J. Simpson could never be tried for murder again.